Come on.
'Cause tonight will be the night that I will fall for you over again. Don't make me change my mind.
Welcome to 4 Picks. This is Gerard, and today we're going to be doing a best bets video on UFC Fight Night, Evloev versus Murphy. Now, before we do that, we got to talk about our results for UFC Fight Night, Emmett versus Vallejos. This was pretty much a wash, basically broke even, down 0.23 units. And yeah, it was just 50% of our bets basically hit. We messed up on the Cutelaba play, which was parlayed with the under 2.5 on Bruno Silva versus Charles Johns. I thought that fight was going to go under because Bruno likes to have his fights not go the distance. Charles Johnson just came off of a KO loss. I thought we were going to see some sort of a finish there. Now, that Cutelaba play, we should have just played that plus 240 money line by itself as an underdog play, but getting too cute there with the tying it with the Charles Johnson under 2.5 for a quarter unit loss. Now, I was really wrong on that Tavares wins by decision. Tavares wins by decision, and instead they gave that to Eric Anders in that decision loss there. But what we did hit was that over 2.5, Eric Anders, Tavares, and Delgado win, which he barely won that one, I think. It was a split decision for Delgado. Got away with that one. And again, missed on the under 2.5 on that Delgado. I thought we were going to see a finish there, mostly on Delgado's side, but I was wrong on that one. And this plus 102 two-leg parlay on the Chris Kurtis over 2.5, and the Pierre Rodriguez versus Sam Hughes over 2.5. That one cashed. That was Alex's play right there, so good on him. And overall, we were down 0.23 units. UFC Fight Night, Emmett versus Vallejos was a wash, but we'll move on to that next one. Here is UFC Fight Night, Evloev versus Murphy. Yeah, a lot of good spots to pick here, but I mostly have one fight that I'm mostly keen on betting here, and that is the Mason Jones versus Alex Sola. Now, this fight here, both fighters are coming off of win streaks, but I think I'm going to be siding with the more complete fighter who has a more tested track record in Mason Jones, being this is his second stint in the UFC. And I think he just has tools everywhere, the stand-up, the grappling. He has that dog in him, being able to come back from being knocked down in the first round against that Balajioki fight, his last fight, and was still able to finish Balajioki in the second round. Now, he showed that he can turn to this grappling if the striking wasn't working out, but as for Alex Sola, his last fight against Reese McKee, he finished Reese McKee in that fight, but when I watch Alex Sola, his stand-up, he kind of looks a little clumsy on the defense. Like, he looks like he fights long. People say he's technical, but his defense leaves a little bit for me to be concerned about. So, and as far as his wins, we haven't seen him tested too much in the UFC. Coming out of France, I really don't like to be betting on French guys. And especially in that last UFC Fight Night, we saw what happened to Umar Sy, who was a big favorite against Cutelaba. We bet Cutelaba on that fight, but it's too bad that we didn't just bet the underdog. We messed up his bet in a parlay which lost. So this fight, I wouldn't be too confident in picking a French fighter. Me personally, it's hard to trust French fighters with their money. So Mason Jones, he looks like he'll fight for every round, every minute, and he has skills in the stand-up and the grappling. So I'm going to be looking to put him in a play. And as for a best bet right now, right here, he's a minus 130. But as I said, there are a few spots on this card that I'm also confident in, but the lines for those fights aren't that great. And that being this one right here, Christian Leroy Duncan at minus 500. Not a lot of value there, but you could parlay him with the Mason Jones, get him up to a plus 112. That's not bad, plus 112 on a Mason Jones. Let's see who other guys that I like here. I do I like to fade Antonio Tricoli, so give me Montas. That gives you a plus 101 on a Mason Jones. So that's a potential play you could play right there. But if you want a little bit more money on Mason Jones, maybe you just put them together. Christian Leroy Duncan and Montas let me try to say this. Contratavicius. Montas Contratavicius and CLD gives you a plus 141 on Mason Jones. And yeah, Roman Dolidze, I think he's not going to be able to handle the stand-up of Christian Leroy Duncan at this time of his career. And Tricoli's more of a poker player now these days. I'm not too sure how serious he is about his MMA career at this point. So that 3-leg parlay plus 141. And one potential one, but this is much riskier, is I do still like me some Michael Venom Page. Now, the only problem with this one is he is getting up there in age. I believe he's 41 years old now, but he hasn't shown any sign of slowing down. And he's facing a Sam Patterson who has looked spectacular in his last 3 fights, getting finishes. But he does leave his chin up there. And if we saw from his Ashmuz fight, his knockout loss in round 1, he left himself open from a blitz overhand with Ashmuz, who's much smaller, less longer than Michael Page. And if you add that with Michael Venom Page's speed and length and his awkward timing to defend, I think Michael Page can find that shot if he hasn't slowed down. And that's if you're banking on that he hasn't slowed down at 41. And we haven't seen him slow down yet. So that could potentially cash there at plus 173. Getting Mason Jones at a plus 173? I mean, that's not too bad, but obviously Michael Page is a little bit of risk factor there if he gets grappled, get taken down by Sam Patterson's very solid grappling, I would say. Now, is Sam Patterson... That's if you believe Sam Patterson has a better grappling ability than Ian Gary in that Michael Page fight, which you can't understand. That could possibly be the case, but we don't know if he'll be able to get that game plan down against a Michael Page. So you could do that plus 173. The original pick was Mason Jones, Christian Leroy Duncan, plus 112. That would be the main parlay that I would go with. But if you really trust everyone who I mentioned here, Montas, CLD, and Michael Page, you're looking at a plus 271 on a 4-leg parlay. That's if you trust all these guys. But I would leave it to a 2-leg or a 3-leg parlay. So yeah. So that would be the best bets for UFC London. A lot of good fights coming up. Even after this card, I believe James should be coming back for the next card, which is Adesanya versus Piper. So we're going to be enjoying that coming soon. So see y'all in the next one. Gerard, out.